Welcome to another episode of the News Roundup. On today's show, we're going to be discussing a situation unfolding out in the state of Ohio, where the Cleveland Clinic is denying a father the right to donate a kidney to his 9-year-old son due to his vaccination status. What in the world is happening here? We're going to discuss. And so, from Trial Site News, I am Adrian, and our episode starts now. For the past 9 years, the Donaldsons have dedicated their lives to creating the best possible outcome for the health and well-being of their little boy, Tanner. Jenn Donaldson, his mother, quit her job to care for Tanner so she can meet the frequency of his medical needs. Their little boy suffers from posterior urethral valves, or PUV, which are obstructive membranes that develop in the urethra, which functions by draining urine from the bladder. These valves can obstruct or block the outflow of urine, which leads the ureters and kidneys to become progressively dilated, resulting in damage. PUV cannot be prevented, and it begins in the early stages of fetal development and abnormally affects male infants. Reports of the incidence of PUV vary as widely as 1 in 2,000 to as much as 1 in 25,000, this according to Nature.com. The illness is the most common cause of congenital bladder outlet obstruction and is responsible for 17% of pediatric end-stage kidney disease. Many patients suffer ongoing bladder dysfunction and progressive kidney injury, resulting in between 22 to 50% proceeding to kidney failure by early adulthood. Now, the parents spoke to us here at Trial Site News to explain the circumstances surrounding their legal battle with Tanner's hospital, the Cleveland Clinic, which happens to be one of the top hospitals in the country. The hospital is no longer accepting Dane as a kidney donor for his son because Dane has not yet been vaccinated. According to their recent COVID-19 vaccination policy, all patients of elective surgeries must be vaccinated, and Dane falls under that technicality. Despite the Donaldsons' attempt to reason with the hospital, utilizing their religious exemption, proving Dane already acquired natural immunity through COVID infection, and releasing the hospital of any liability, the Cleveland Clinic will not budge on this matter. Now, Tanner does not have many options on the table. His body is currently surviving on 1 kidney with between 18 to 22% functionality. It is medically optimal for Tanner to live on his native kidney as long as possible. But while the threat of needing a transplant loom, at the moment it is best for them to buy time with Tanner's own kidney through their meticulous efforts at preserving Tanner's most optimal health. However, if Tanner's kidney were to drop below 15% function, then a kidney donation transplant surgery would need to be immediate. While both parents have 4 out of 5 markers as quality candidates, his father Dane is the one taking on this responsibility. As they decided that if the children lost a parent due to surgical complications, the Donaldsons agreed that the children needed their mom most to survive. The Donaldsons are also considering their teenaged son Ryder, who is a high-functioning autistic. Much to the Donaldsons' chagrin, they learned that there would not be any patient-specific consideration regarding the mandate put in place by the Cleveland Clinic in the last quarter of 2021. The Donaldsons requested a meeting with the decision-makers, but instead got the team of doctors who were involved: the nephrologist, the urologist, the infectious disease doctor, and the surgeon who would operate on Dane. As Jenn Donaldson told us here at Trial Site News, that is who we got. We got the doctors that make no decisions. So what then was the Cleveland Clinic's main objection to Dane not being vaccinated? Simply put, it was that he would run the risk of contracting COVID-19. They dismissed Dane's willingness to absolve the hospital of liability. When Jenn Donaldson questioned the doctors about the risk of adverse reactions if her husband Dane were to be vaccinated, their answer was that if Dane were to develop any adverse reactions because of COVID-19 vaccines, such as myocarditis or Guillain-Barré syndrome or GBS, that Dane would no longer be eligible to donate his kidney. Now, beyond the ways in which an adverse reaction could eliminate him as a donor for Tanner, Dane is also the sole breadwinner of the family. His concerns were what would happen if he were to become disabled because of vaccination. Would the Cleveland Clinic compensate their family? The answer, of course, was no. After all, there is a powerful liability shield in place protecting the vaccine makers, hospitals, and others from COVID-19 liability thanks to the PrEP Act. But even if he could count on financial compensation, Dane told us that he wasn't going to take $5 million for his family but not be able to function anymore. What good is that for anybody? Now, ironically, the Donaldsons also pointed out that the Cleveland Clinic fired unvaccinated nurses from their staff, but then had to rehire them as contract workers. This is a medically and epidemiologically illogical loophole that many healthcare facilities around the nation have used when staff shortages became desperate. Interestingly, the Donaldsons also inquired about whether a dead donor is required to be vaccinated to give a kidney to their son. According to the Cleveland Clinic, the answer was no. A deceased unvaccinated donor kidney would be acceptable for a transplant. Dane told us that this is where the story comes full circle. What's better, a living donor or a deceased donor? Now they're taking a deceased donor unvaccinated, right? So they're willing to do it, but only if I'm dead. And so, the Donaldsons have now filed an official lawsuit against the hospital. Elizabeth A. Brem Esquire with the law firm of Aaron Seary Esquire reiterated Donaldson's points in a letter to their bioethics director and included a follow-up. But the Cleveland Clinic has neither responded to or even acknowledged the receipt of the letters. So what is Plan B? Well, the Donaldsons are hoping for a legal overturn utilizing Ohio legislature that aims to end vaccine discrimination. The Donaldsons live in Ohio, where Jennifer Gross, District 52, is a primary sponsor, along with 15 other representatives, of House Bill 248, which is titled Enact Vaccine Choice. In the meantime, the parents continue to do whatever they can to center their life around the care of their boy. Jenn Donaldson quit her job to care for her son so she can meet the frequency of his medical needs. She must make daily trips to his school because Tanner needs a catheter to help manually drain his urine every 3 hours without exception. This includes at night. This tedious yet important process reduces the chances of his urine flowing back into his body and damaging his organs, and must be conducted in a regimented and sterile fashion by his parents. If not, they run the risk of causing Tanner a kidney infection, which happens to be quite common for kids with PUV to contract more than a few times a year. Thankfully, though, since his birth, Tanner has done much better than his doctors had expected. Furthermore, Tanner has no other comorbidities, which makes Tanner a prime candidate on the donor list. A troubling story for a very troubling time. And we, of course, will be keeping an eye on the situation as it continues to develop. And that, my friends, brings our episode to a close once more. Thank you so much for joining me on this show today. From Trial Site News, I am Adrian, and I will see you all next time.